Here's a fun story about corporate greed and how it's being responded to within the financial investment community, which I think is very interesting. And as I talk about a lot on the show, vote with your dollars. It's like, huh. So what happened? There's Mylan, which is they make EpiPens, and what happened was they increased the cost of EpiPens by 400% and then gave their former CEO a $98 million bonus. And then the current CEO, who is Heather Bresch, who is Senator Manchin's daughter, she saw a 671% increase in her salary. She went from $2.4 million to 18.9 by driving up the cost of EpiPens. So EpiPens, I'm sure most of you know, these are life-saving things. Especially if you have a child who has a allergy. One of my nieces had a peanut allergy. She's since grown out of it, but when she was little, she had this, so they had to have EpiPens around. And if you've ever seen anybody, or maybe you've experienced it yourself, it's pretty scary when they go into shock and their throat seizes up and that's having an allergic reaction, and you, boom, put the EpiPen in there, and it's basically I'm not a physician, obviously, but it's like Benadryl or whatever, and it goes away. They upped the price 400%. No, we don't need any regulation of the healthcare industry. They're doing fine on their own. Them and the banks, let them, regulation hurts business. So the reaction to this, though, is very interesting. The Institutional Shareholder Services, which is a shareholder advisory firm, took the rare step of urging investors to oust all of Mylan's existing directors. Well, there's some self-policing you don't. And this article, I saw this in the CNN Money section. So here I'll read what they said. So ISS chastised the Mylan board for multiple egregious pay decisions and a failure to heed warning signs ahead of last summer's scandal over EpiPen pricing. Mylan was already under fire for a relentless series of price hikes on a 2-pack of EpiPens by 400% over 7 years. God. The controversy badly damaged Mylan's reputation, wiped out billions of dollars of market value. See, they're so short-sighted and stupid. They just get so greedy, and they think, and so they upped it, and it's like the company was doing fine. And if you were an investor, that's why I don't trust most corporations. I don't trust their CEOs because they're having nice profits. So what do? Do they invest it back in? Do they give it into their employees? Do they give their shareholders some dividends and spread the money around and make everybody happy? Nope. They raise the prices and then they keep even more of the profits. $98 million to the former CEO. And then this woman goes from 2.4 to 18.9 million. I've talked about this before. They've done studies. Money buys happiness up to about 150, 200 grand or so, depending on the city you live in and the cost of living. Like if you live in a smaller town, 100, 150 grand a year is, whatever. It pays for. If you live in a bigger city like Chicago or New York, San Francisco, LA, where the cost of living is higher, $150,000, $200,000 actually makes it does increase happiness because you go from stressing out to bills to having things paid for, and you can whatever investments, all that stuff. But once you start getting over 200 grand, money doesn't buy more happiness, and you're making $2.5 million a year. Okay, I just want to point this out. This woman she's a CEO of a company, right? So we talk there's a lot of the patriarchy and men are ruining it. And I'm not denying that there's obviously a patriarchy and men have done a lot of shitty things, and not just white men, but primarily white men. But it's not only white male CEOs anymore. That's not it. It's the majority of them for sure. But here's an example. And who is this woman? She's a senator's daughter. So she's had a life of power and privilege. And this is what she does. Do you know? So I'm a big fan of the WNBA, all right? I go to Sparks games. and 2016 WNBA champs. Go Sparks. I've been to a couple games already this year. I've got tickets to some more coming up. The maximum salary you can make in the WNBA is $100,000. That's the max salary. The minimum salary in the NBA is just under 500 grand. And I bet you if you were to interview this woman, right? If you were to interview, what's her name again? If you were to interview Heather Bresch, she would say, oh yeah, I'm a feminist, I support women. And I bet you this woman has been asked to speak on like panels at women's business conferences and how do we empower women business owners and women entrepreneurs. I bet you she's done that. Did she, when she got her 671% increase, when she made an extra $16 million a year, did she say, no, let's give that back to the community. Let's give that to women. Let's find some, some women working 2-3 jobs that wish they had the money to go to college. I want to put a bunch of them through college so they can make $2.5 million a year and have the kind of life that I've had. Nope, she kept it because she's greedy. And these women in the WNBA that bust their ass just like male professional athletes, the most they can make is 100 grand a year. Now, some of them get endorsements, bigger name players and stuff like that. But all of them have to go play overseas, because overseas you can make more money as a female basketball player than you can in America. So this is just horrifying. And I'm glad that there's people calling. I'm glad this story is out, and I'm glad other people are covering this. And so when I talk about voting with your dollars, this is the kind of thing. This is why I personally stay away from the stock market. But if any of you out there do invest in the stock market, know where your money is going. And know that most corporations are top-heavy, greedy CEOs of all genders and ethnicities that are just so willing to fuck people over and take a profit that they didn't earn by manipulating the market. It's just, and just know when I say vote with your dollars, just think about that. And give credit to this ISS organization. They said all 10 of Meyer's existing directors should be voted out, including Heather Bresch. So good on you, ISS. And well, here's what, this is our great information about Heather Bresch. She caught flack last summer by trying to pin the blame for the EpiPen sticker shock on a shadowy healthcare supply chain rather than accept responsibility. Boy, that's real leadership. Oh, it wasn't my fault. They did it. Oh, God. Yeah, I don't care what Kathy Griffin said about, holding up Trump's head. I don't care. That doesn't bother me. The fact that her apology was bullshit crying and blaming Trump and the patriarchy, it wasn't my fault. Grow up. And if anyone's raising small children out there, especially young girls, teach them how to have responsibility. Young boys and young girls, teach them when they make a mistake, whose fault was it? And when they start going, but I didn't mean it, that starts at age 4 or 5. But I wasn't, whose fault is this? You need to accept responsibility. Raise your kids right so we don't have this bullshit, and pull your money out of these awful corporations. This is just disgusting. Yeah. And now, Mylan has also been, they were overcharging the government for life-saving drugs to the board. This is what they've done. So they've overcharged the government for life-saving drugs, and then they run up the EpiPen price, and then they give all their big CEOs a bunch of kickbacks. Wow. I'm all for diversity and equality, but get the right people in there, male or female. Get them in there so we can do it. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe.